Start. Good evening, friends. Tim Kirby Russia. You know Stanislav. He has been with us many times before, former U.S. Army officer. So let's skip these intros and get to the meat of the discussion. Recently, Stas, I told my audience that Mr. Sersky there, General Sersky, or whatever his title is, on the Ukrainian side, has said that there's going to be another counter-offensive this summer, but this time going in the Kharkov region. So I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on this. I know it's kind of a bad question, but to start the interview off with, but what is your general impression of this declaration?
Well, let's go back, not right now, but let's skip back about, 3 months ago,
Okay.
2 months ago even. Zelensky was in an interview with Fox News, and he said, yes, we're going to have another counteroffensive, and we're going to take Crimea. I guess they're planning on going across into Kherson. So, one fan is the other. Sersky, if nothing else, is a puppet. He will say whatever it takes to say to keep his job, and will just parrot. I guess not a puppet, a parrot. Parrot's a better word. He'll parrot whatever Zelensky tells him. And why Kharkov? Because Russia moved into Kharkov, and by the northern forces that moved in. Here's something to consider. The forces that are in Kharkov right now are Leningrad Oblast, Leningrad region regulars,
Yeah.
right? Track troops. They're almost the only regulars from the regular military districts that are fighting in Ukraine right now. They're not the only ones near Ukraine, but they're the only ones actually fighting in Ukraine.
Why is that? Well, I understand with the Donbass because the local militias there have been fighting for years, and I assume that they're still there. But why are there so few regular troops?
There are various Kazakh battalions. There's various volunteer battalions. Almost all of the troops that are in there right now, most of them, are either LNR, DNR, or new units that have just been created. And if you look at it, they're not heavy infantry for the most part, and they're not armored forces. You have a tank here, you have a tank there. You may have 2 or 3 tanks. So you may get up to a platoon of tanks in any one action. But most of it's basically light forces, some mechanized forces. Now, considering Russia has several tank armies,
Yeah.
now you're starting to go. Now you're going to start wondering why. Now, Vladimir let loose that there's over 880,000 troops in this theater, but the actual fighting's being done by maybe about 300,000. Now, that's not 300,000 rifles on the perimeter. That's including forces that are there to. No, maybe it's probably closer to 500, but it's also forces that are the what we used to call the ash and trash. Your transportation, your mechanics, your cooks, your washing services, and everything else that keeps a modern army rolling. Now, there's at least 400,000 troops dedicated to Ukraine that haven't taken part in the action yet. And most of those are heavy units. Now, Ukraine, the force that came in, Kharkov. The force that came into Kharkov was around 15 to 20,000.
Yes, it was very small, surprisingly small.
It's pulled on itself somewhere around 30 to 40,000 Ukrainian troops, which is the entire Ukrainian strategic reserve. The ones that Cocaine Boy was talking about sending into to die in Kherson.
Yeah.
Now they get to die in Kharkov.
Gotcha.
Their admin. I'm sorry, it's late, so my vocabulary.
I appreciate you giving us the time here. Okay.
They're backed up by people that have been literally just pulled off the street. A lot of the videos that are coming out are the Ukrainian veterans giving basic rifleman training to these guys. Basic, as I'm saying, here's how you pull a rifle apart. This is how you put it together. This is the end that the bullet comes from. This is the part that goes against your shoulder. That level of instruction. Welcome to, this is a rifle. These guys. And these are guys, and if you listen to commentary, it's like, this is the first time they're taking a rifle apart. In 2 days, they go into battle. Their survival, it's not even zero. It's negative. It's like negative interest rates.
Gotcha.
They have good chance of coming out of this alive. They might as well just shoot themselves now. It'll probably be easier. They'll get better medical help than when on the field of battle, because nobody on the Ukrainian side is going to pull them out.
Yeah.
That's how pathetic this is. So they're throwing everything, including the baby carriage, the baby water, the baby bath, anything and everything. They just haven't thrown the babies, but I'm sure they'll get to drafting babies sooner or later too.
So if that's the case, then why hasn't Russia just pushed forward and ended this? Or is there some sort of political aspect to this? Or is it not possible to push forward? I think in a previous interview you mentioned that the way this war is being fought, you can't exactly go far away from your, let's just say, what is that called? Your, vision from the sky and your missile defenses and all that. Is that the case, or why?
The aircraft umbrella and so on.
The umbrella, yeah.
But the anti-aircraft umbrella is always there. No, the way this war is being fought, you can't do that. Mm-hmm. But you can do that. Believe me, the Russian military has enough electronic warfare equipment, at least on a 30 to 40 kilometer range, to just kill everything. Mm-hmm. There won't be anything flying because they'll just jam every single frequency there is. Mm-hmm. True, there won't be any Russian equipment flying either.
No.
Everything can get jammed, but then you can launch your tank offensive, because none of those drones are going to work. They're just not going to work. There's no frequency they can fly on. They can do that. Why they haven't done that? That's Vladimir Vladimirovich seems to keep forgetting to ask me to invite me over to his meetings.
Well, from what I understand, you're doing quite well on RT, so who knows? You might get invited to the Kremlin Christmas party. So.
Oh, that'd be cool. That'd be very cool.
1 year I was invited, and then I was uninvited. It was very painful for my children. What can I say?
Oh yeah. I was invited to commentary on the parade on 9th of May, but then I got blocked by security forces for not getting a clearance, but they didn't give a reason why, even though it's a separate entity than all the other security agencies. They just make their own decisions. When I asked around, everybody's like, well, we have no idea how to make decisions. They just make decisions.
Well, there you go. Very, very classic. So.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Vladimir Vladimirovich doesn't invite me, even though Newsweek already stated that I'm an ally of his, which I take as a great compliment, though I doubt he knows I'm alive.
Yeah. He gave me citizenship, and I don't doubt. He just signed it. Whatever. This guy, he seems nice. Okay, next. Yeah.
So I'm thinking, in my personal opinion, is this is still the same drive. We don't want to do too much too quickly because we don't want to spook the Europeans. We don't want to look too aggressive, which is having the exact opposite effect. And it's had the exact opposite effect from day one, because the Europeans and the Americans understand brute force. They don't understand, we've come in humanitarian style.
And
they consider that weakness.
You understand the American mentality, but you don't have a stupid accent like I do. So one of the things is, when you're talking to a lot of more serious people in Russia, do they get like the mentality of the people in the West and the leadership and all that? Because you just said something that I think is pretty obvious to all the English-speaking, let's just say, Russia watchers. They would agree with what you said about how, in a way, Russia's timidness makes the situation worse. But I don't think a lot of people in power understand that. Or do they? Or what's going on?
I think they're starting to understand, because after 2.5 years of trying to negotiate with blank walls and ideologues, that it's finally starting to sink in. But no, honestly, I don't think a lot of them do. Look, I was on a forum, Ukraine.ru, from which is a media company also. And they're discussing, what kind of Ukraine is going to be left after this war, what kind of Ukraine we need, or whether we annex it, whether we put up a neutral government, so on and so on. Pyotr Tolstoy, who's Speaker of the Duma, was there, and he was talking. And one of the phrases he said was, because somebody asked him, how are Europeans looking at us? It's like, well, they're looking at us like this crazed Western European country. Get a chance to say anything. Unfortunately, I didn't get picked. But the point I was going to make is, no, my dear fellow, they're not looking at us like a crazed European country. They're looking at us as half-human Mongoloid barbarians.
Yeah,
they have lots of reasons.
You, like the Union Army was looking at the Indians there out in the West,
Oh, yeah. The only difference is the Indians didn't have a large army, a huge industrial base, and nuclear weapons.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
if they did, oh Lordy, have mercy.
Yeah.
It would have been a whole different situation. But that, it's that. Oh, we're still part of this European family. We were never part of this European family.
Never.
Never, and we're still not. The only time they're nice to us is when they want us to go die for them, pay for them, or steal from us.
Yeah, yeah.
Or when they're trying to convert us to something else. So
I
yeah,
would say
that's
though, and one hopeful moment when Mr. Tolstoy gave like an interview to French press, he was brutal with them. It was very nice. I think he finally maybe gave up on his Europeanness. Because to be honest, I even said on TV, which the interview should have came out today, is that it's almost like this collar that's been strapped around Russians for centuries after Peter the First told everyone that the West is the best and we're garbage here. It's almost like that collar is being slipped off of everyone right now. And of course, it's painful as they pull on the collar, but pretty soon it's going to be gone, and it'll be a great day for Russia, hopefully.
collar. Maybe I'd describe it more like a fish hook in the gill, or
Okay.
maybe really seared on rose-colored glasses. You ever seen that one movie, They Live?
Yeah,
About
yeah.
the aliens, right? So he puts the glasses on. He has the glasses off. This is the reverse effect, of course.
Yeah.
He has the glasses off. He sees all the commercials. He puts the glasses on. He sees eat, procreate, consume.
Yeah.
This is the opposite. You take the glasses off. The West is your friend. I mean, you friend. You take them off. You look at a bunch of people that really want to butcher and rape and pillage, and they just dropped an ATACMS missile on a Sevastopol beach with cluster munitions.
Yeah.
And by the way, that's Americans in those HIMARS loading that missile. That's Americans in those HIMARS shooting that missile. It's American satellites guiding them. They can't even arm that missile without secret clearances, secret codes that no Ukrainian has. The missile's guided in by an American satellite by a command post somewhere in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
They dropped a missile on a beach full of people, cluster munitions, 124 injured. They murdered 5 of them, 3 of them children, the youngest one being 2 years old.
Yeah. Well,
and that's the reality of it.
Well, yeah, and unfortunately, the real thing is that tomorrow, because we're recording this on the same day as the event, so tomorrow, from our perspective, some twit in the White House is going to go up and read some sort of statement, and they are just going to ignore that this happened. Just didn't happen, or that the Ukrainians did it. Just no acknowledgement. So it's just kidding. But anyways, let's get back to our topic of this potential future counteroffensive. So, is Syrskyi going to order then this remaining 40,000 of their strategic reserves to charge north to try to push towards the Belgrade border? What is this? What is he going to do? And also, do they even really have that many tanks left?
Well, the tanks they have, they're trying to keep for as a more of a reserve. They're bringing in a very little amount of tanks, a couple of Abrams here, a couple of this, a couple of that. They're husbanding their resources as far as armor. They're not husbanding their resources as far as human meat. And believe me, that's all they're looking at their own people as is human meat, because they're not really their own people.
Yeah.
Not Zelensky or any of those other, the rest of that scum was ever planning on dying of old age in Ukraine.
Yeah.
You got to keep that in mind. Now, they've pulled up 40+ thousand against about 15, 20,000. And here's the problem. They pulled up 40,000 against 15,000. And they're inside, you know which umbrella? The Russian aviation umbrella.
Oh.
And the other day, there was a new bomb called a Fab 3000, which is interesting, by the way. In World War II, in Kursk, there were several Fab 5000s that were dropped. But these are straight ion gravity bombs. As opposed to these are JDAM equipped bombs, Russian JDAM, so they're gliders. Yeah. So the planes don't have to get all that close. Now, to just understand, a 3,000 pound fuel air, or a 3,000 kilogram, so that's a 6,000 pound fuel air delivery system. that took out about 1.5 to 2 companies of men in the buildings, prepped for defensive positions. And the one long building there, you can see that the cars driving around the side of, there's nothing inside of it. Just the walls are left. Everything's collapsed. The floors have collapsed. Everything's collapsed. The roof is just more or less still hanging there, and the walls are still standing. So total casualty. I mean, the blast radius and the blast wave. When you get 500 to 1,000 kilo bombs, those trenches start to collapse away from the blast because the ground moves, it shakes. It's an earthquake-sized event. Now you're talking about 3,000 kilos, the 3-ton explosion, fuel air explosion. I mean, any trenches, they've collapsed. Any fighting position around there, they've collapsed.
Wow.
And this is what's going
to say that it can actually collapse like a pillbox and trenches and all that.
Because the ground shakes and the supports, they'll go, and then the ground will go.
Wow.
So it'll carry the people in there. So yeah, it's a shake and bake. I mean, it's a big old shake and bake. So they're screwed, and this is now being labeled the 3,000 kilo one, the 3-ton fob is being labeled as a stronghold killer.
Yeah,
pretty much level. And by the way, it clears out a minefield like a dream.
Oh, because the friction, it makes all the mines go off, right?
Those that don't go off, they just get blasted out of the way, anyways, just by the blast wave. Those mines they're not even buried; they're on top of the ground, or just a little buried. So just throw them out. Anything that doesn't explode is just gonna get tossed out of the way, anyways. So you get a nice open area. You don't get a gigantic.
The Ukrainians don't bury the mines. They don't have time, or what?
Usually because they don't have time. They'll on roads they really can't bury the mines. They'll just lay them out. But on the a lot of those mines. But you got to remember too, a lot of mines these days aren't hand delivered. They're air delivered
from like the big cassette bomb or whatever it's called in the sky. Right.
They'll actually drop actual mines instead of just unexploded ordnance from the cluster munitions, which is about 60% on between 40 and 60% unexploded, which are just basically grenades or bigger lying around. But you can actually deliver mines, and so I mean these mines are devious as hell. They're mines that once they land, they'll shoot out trip cords. They're mines that also have heat sensors. So if a shadow falls over them for long enough, i.e. somebody standing over them, and the temperature drops fast enough, they'll explode. Vibration explodes. We're not even getting to bouncing Bettys. If you've ever got trips of bouncing Betty, you're probably the only one left alive because it explodes above the guy. It showers out. So, I mean, if you look up at mines are a bitch. They are the people that make them are sadistic because that's how it is. Booby traps are even worse. But those Ukrainians are coming in. Never mind, they're using the meat as shockwaves to wear down the Russian troops. So they're taking massive casualties. It's not working because Russia is very close to its back end where they can rotate troops in and out fast. The Russian Air Force is just whacking these guys left and right. So whatever super duper offensive they're planning, they don't have the reserves for it. They aren't training these guys. If there wasn't a hike of offensive now from the Russian side, all these guys off the streets would be getting training. Somewhat competent. But now they're all being taught in. Meanwhile, the main battle area at the moment is on the DNR, and the Russian army is moving forward. Why? Because a lot of the troops from those areas were stripped and pushed up to either Chasiv Yar, or the majority were pushed up to Kharkov. Now, there's been a little offensive in the Sumy region, the Sumy province, but it seems like they just came in, took one village, put up a flag, and left. Or maybe they're still in that village, but they haven't gone further. But it puts more pressure on the Ukrainians because they have to react. Wherever Russian military pushes through, they have to react, which stretches further and further. Just so the audience understands, the present Russian front line of active combat, some amount, from Kharkov region down to Khersonov is 1,080 kilometers. That's the distance from Berlin to London.
Yeah.
The straight line distance is about 900 something kilometers, but it's further.
But
It's
it
almost
bows. Yeah.
yeah, it's almost up to Dublin. I mean, just so you understand, from Berlin to Dublin,
Yeah.
it's a huge front line. That's why they say, oh, we're bringing another brigade in for the French. Okay,
Yeah.
you
What are
really
gonna do?
going to change anything, really? 30
Well,
American
thankfully,
troops.
I mean,
Yeah.
not that the French would do anything, but the whole thing of the French entering with 20,000 guys, it just opens again this door to something happening, and we go nuclear. So it looks like that's not going to happen. Macron kind of said that, and I think that that's all kind of falling apart quickly, or is already falling apart, at least for the moment.
Well, there are Foreign Legion troops already in Ukraine, and there are probably French instructors. There are plenty of American instructors and British. Don't trust. First of all, Macron has an official policy of ambiguity.
Yeah. Well, see, that's the difference, because if you send 20,000 guys with flags and fancy uniforms and they all get whacked, it means that Macron would have to do something in reaction to that. Whereas instructors, mercenaries, they die, no responsibility.
Well, no, the French Foreign Legion aren't mercenaries.
Mm-hmm.
They are part of the French army. Let's keep this straight. A lot of them aren't citizens,
Yeah.
but there are French men in there too who are citizens. And
Oh no, we lost you, Stas. No, what happened? Oh no, friends. Oh, Stas, is he coming back? Oh no. Well,
part of the French army.
Oh, sorry, we lost you there for a bit. Could you go back a little bit to going? You were saying something about how the French Foreign Legion is a part of the actual French military, whether the guys have citizenship or not, and then you cut off.
Yeah, the French Foreign Legion is an active part.
Oh no!
Did we freeze again? Okay.
Yeah, I did again.
It's they don't want me talking about the French Foreign Legion. It's
I feel like Alex Jones. They're watching. The government is watching. Got to put on our tinfoil hats. But anyways,
it's watching. Goddamn Stanislav again.
Yeah.
I'll just, like I said, the French Foreign Legion is part of the French Armed Forces, and they pledge allegiance to France. Mm-hmm. So they're not mercenaries. Yeah. They're not French citizens for the most part. There are some there, and some French-born citizens. But so they were even said, Macron has this official policy of ambiguity, mm-hmm. which can be best summarized as we talk out both ends of our mouth and out of our ass too. Mm-hmm. And something of that may be true, and the majority isn't, and then we'll change our mind in 5 minutes. So nobody knows who we are. That's the actual official policy, ambiguity. Mm-hmm. So we'll just keep saying a lot of things, and we'll do something.
Well, maybe in terms of dealing with your enemies in a time of war, that makes sense. But you have to also deal with your own population, and that's also not a very respectful way to talk to your population. Then again, Macron is a globalist, so he doesn't care about them. So, yeah. But
he's also pissing off his allies because nobody knows what the hell is actually going on in his head.
And here, then one major. We talked about this counteroffensive. I think we kind of got through that. Now, the other sort of major question I had for you today was, Putin sort of laid out. Well, Zelensky had his peace summit, and Putin had his counteroffer. Where he said that the 4 regions that are now part of the Russian Federation are non-negotiable. That's and they have to recognize the Crimea and a few other points, and this, that, and the other. How is that going to affect the war? This sort of statement here, or Zelensky's actions? Does this actually matter, or was that just something to sort of snub Zelensky and make him look like a twit?
Well, that's not that hard to do. Well, honestly. But no, it partially derailed part of Zelensky's great peace summit, mm-hmm. Where they were planning on, the European vassals and the Asian vassals of the Empire of Evil. They're going to say whatever that the Hell Temple on the Potomac tells them to say.
Yeah.
The real point was to try to bring in all these non-vassal countries and get them to agree on the same thing. And most of them just said no, we're not coming, or the ones that came in there just they sent the janitor's assistant like the Indians did. Mm-hmm. And even though some of them signed, they're now unsigned from the that little petition that really said nothing. And Putin did one thing: he reversed the American American demands, which are voiced through the sock puppet called Zelensky, about Russia going to the 1991 borders.
Yeah.
I get the 1991 borders from earlier, like the Soviet borders, but I think they're meeting at post-Soviet borders.
Well, that's what I think, yes.
But Putin just said fine. Same requirements. Ukraine leaves all Russian territory, which is including the old new Russian territories. The old, because they were always part of Russia until the Soviets made them part of this artificial state of Ukraine. So they've basically returned back home. Ukraine leaves those territories. We'll have a summit.
Okay.
And that's what the global South wanted to hear, because they said, see, Putin wants to have a summit. He wants to have peace. Yeah. It's you guys who are the warmongering idiots.
Oh, okay. Well, but I mean, in terms of the war here, so Putin basically said, okay, these are sort of my minimums. Let's talk about it. And of course, immediately it was rejected. So does that mean that Putin is going to say, well, since you rejected any possibility of negotiating this, then, you got turned around here. Oh, there you go. So it's basically Putin laid something out, got completely slapped down again, which was the cause of the war, because before the war started, 1 month before it, he offered Biden to reform a new security policy for Europe. But anyways, so he gets rejected. Does that mean that Putin then can sort of see this in a political sense as being like carte blanche to sort of go farther?
Well, I'll slightly change your statement there. The cause of the war wasn't this. The cause of the war was the desire to destroy Russia. And to have an excuse to destroy Russia economically, they need to have a little war. So Russia walks into Ukraine because we made all the movements we could, including Blinken telling Lavrov, we'll set nuclear missiles on your border. You can try to beg us not to put too many of them, but we're going to do whatever the hell we want, and we're going to have missiles there. So that their final trigger.
That was the cause of the war, but that was something that happened right like before the actual process.
Well, that was as much the cause of the war as anything else. Yeah. And that's just a whole combination of causes. Yeah. So once they come in there, the whole point is, we'll have a little war. The Russians aren't very strong. They aren't very competent. And all their sanction packages, the first 5 or 6 sanction packages, they're already ready. We'll just start leveling them, and we'll crush the economy within 2 weeks. Okay, maybe months. Okay, half a year. Okay, 1 year. Hell, it ain't working. And the fact that the Russian economy has now been reforecasted at 2.9% growth, so we can say 3.9% growth, because it's really at least 1.5% higher than what the World Bank is saying. So, yeah, it's an issue. It's an issue for the West, because Zelensky, and you can tell that Biden didn't go. The hackling witch Kamala Harris showed up and then left early the same day. Yeah. And Sullivan
that was huge that Biden didn't go.
And,
yeah. And especially the Chinese, because you know what, the Chinese are very good at sitting there and kind of nodding and then ignoring it. I thought the Chinese would go just because they like to sort of do that, showing their face. They didn't even go. That was crazy. And the Indians, boy, although he said it in very political language, the Indian delegation was just like, but this is an agreement but there's only one party here, so this is stupid. We're out. So when the Indians bailed, that was another huge blow. It just sort of blow after blow after blow, and all you're left with are like the Pacific Island and Caribbean nations that have to kiss America's butt or starve. So,
though, Barbados kissed America's ass, signed the petition, and allows Russian freighters to be flagged under its flag.
Yeah.
Classic too. Kind of like, yeah, okay, whatever. Yeah. Sure, we'll sign and we'll keep doing whatever the hell we want to do. Yeah. Bugger off, Uncle. And if that ain't the backyard of the U.S., the Caribbean basin. So yeah, and you're absolutely right. At this point, I mean, Zelensky is obviously, he's not a legitimate president, because either he's a dictator. At least let's label him what he is. It's not a monarchy, so there's no monarch.
Yeah.
So you've got an elected president that canceled elections. And I love reading his fanboys in the West. Oh, the Russians will bomb the polling stations. You can't do that.
Well,
Well,
all of them.
oh, how about if they mail in? Oh, that wouldn't be legal. That wouldn't be fair. Oh, you mean like in the U.S.?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it,
Well,
I think half the fanboys have a man crush on Zelensky and just wish they could rope him in for themselves. So,
Maybe I don't know, but he's certainly a phenomenon for a lot of people. But yeah, I've been hearing in sort of the analysis sphere that ultimately, like, the real leader of Kiev right now then should be sort of like the speaker of the Rada, but he ultimately doesn't want to. And by August 11th, even the Rada itself will become illegitimate, and then the executive and the legislative branch are both illegitimate, and I don't know what's going to happen after that. So, yeah.
oh, believe me, he wants Zelensky's position. He's just smart enough to know that Zelensky will whack him,
Oh,
mafia
that's it.
style. So the moment that Putin set him up and said, the only that I can't remember Rechetko, something like that.
Yeah.
Well, he said that's the only legitimate power right now that we're willing to talk to. That toad was in Zelensky's pond that same evening, begging and pleading and putting his allegiance to Zelensky and only Zelensky. Zelensky will whack anything and everybody that walks around and looks at his power base.
Yeah.
Or rather, Yermak will have him whack, because Yermak is the great counselor there, who's sitting behind Zelensky and reaping the power. And by the way, interesting little thing from for all the fanboys, because there's a hope for you to meet Zelensky, all the Zelensky fanboys. The president of Greek Cyprus mentioned that Zelensky bought a new casino hotel in Greek Cyprus.
No kidding. Wow.
Amazing. The money just keeps coming from. I mean, the president gets paid so well. It must be his
It would be
investment.
amazing if it actually was a themed casino. Like, it was actually themed after the legend of Zelensky. You know, all the employees have a green T-shirt on and stuff. It'd be amazing.
And they all play piano with extra organs.
Yeah, that too. Okay. Wow. Well, anyways, I think last question, real quick. What's going to happen in this summer with the war? What if you, or do you not like to make predictions?
You know, I mean, I know how I was taught war's supposed to go, how the big maneuvers and all that, and the Russian army is quite capable of doing that. Right now, I don't know. You know, I put a down payment on a hotel for me and my family for a vacation at the beach. Won't say which beach, but it was at the beach here in Russia. And I'm hoping I'll be taking it, but I'm not quite sure. I may be in uniform by that point. We all may be in uniform by that point.
No.
Even 3 weeks to vacation, 4 weeks to vacation is a very long time. And these types of strikes with American attackums on beaches, there is going to be a response. Mm-hmm. A major escalation coming. So one way or the other. So what the future is holding, I don't know. But I think in Vladimir Vladimirovич's inner circle, they finally started to figure out fully that there's nobody to negotiate with in the West, and there's only people that despise us and want us destroyed. Mm-hmm. So one way or the other, it's time to end it. And if NATO comes in, well, I guess we got a bigger war on our hands. It's inevitable anyways. And me personally, I am for having a big war now, because we're going to have it no matter what. So better now while the enemy is not prepared, rather than give NATO a couple of years to build up and build up.
Gotcha. All right. Well, dark prognosis, but I appreciate the truth. Anyways, thank you for coming back on the program. And friends, remember, if you like this content, subscribe to our channel. And how can people find out more about you, Stas?
Well, they can send me Christmas cards. I'll send them back a Christmas card. I've got 2 channels on Telegram. Stas was there. That's the English language channel. Stas Todaya Obratna. That's the Russian language channel. And Mr. Slavic Man. And you can support me on Buy Me a Coffee or the Patreon.
All right, there you go. Okay, friends, we're going to be signing out here. Tim Kirby Russia. See you in the next episode.